Good morning, Kasturians, and welcome to video 3 of chapter 1 of history, that is the rise of nationalism in Europe. In today's video, we will see the aristocracy and the middle class, the meaning of liberal nationalism, and a new conservative order after 1815, that is after the defeat of Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo. So let's start. Socially and politically, aristocracy was a dominant class in Europe, but the population or the members of this class were limited, and they tried to continue their number by making marital ties within their families. But it was the peasantry that constituted the majority of population. The peasantry was divided in the western and eastern region, and there was diverse difference. In the west, the peasants included the tenants and small landowners, whereas in the east, the peasants, they were actually serfs, and the size of land holdings were very large. There were vast estates as compared to the small pieces of land in the west. Also, with the industrial revolution, although it began in 18th century in England, but in France it started in the 19th century. So this industrial revolution, it brought about the emergence of new social groups and also a new working class population emerged. This new social group of businessmen or entrepreneurs and the working class population, they together constituted the middle classes. And it was not only the working class, but it was educated class also. And as we have already discussed in the last few videos, that whenever a revolution took place, whenever a revolution it starts, it all starts with the spread of ideas which are much discussed among the educated and the middle class. So it was the middle class or educated class that started discussing this idea of nationalism and national unity, and also the abolition of aristocratic privileges. So these ideas, they became popular, and there it formed the basis of a new beginning of a new conservative order or liberal order relating to nationalism in the entire Europe. Now, what is liberal? What is the meaning of liberal? Liberal or liber, liber is actually a Latin word which means free. So liberalism, it meant freedom for different people, like people who are businessmen. For them, freedom means the freedom or abolition of import and export or trade restrictions, uniform currency, uniform system of weights and measures. If all this is there, then that is what liberal nationalism for them. For the people, for the common people, liberalism means, or liberal nationalism means, that they are free to speak, they are free to express what they feel, they are free to express their opinion. So the freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, freedom of adopting any religion, and overall the equality before law, if it is established, then we can say this is the meaning of liberal nationalism socially. When it comes politically, so as we know, the revolution, it started from France, and the way it paved the way for nationalism in Europe. Still, the French revolutionaries, in the very beginning when they formed the National Assembly, the right to vote was not given, that is universal suffrage was not given to all the people, only active citizens were given the right to suffrage. So all this is included in liberal nationalism. So liberalism in economic sphere, it stands for freedom of markets and abolition of state imposed restrictions. When we see politically, it stands for universal suffrage and it stood for the right to vote to be granted to all people, whether they have property or not, all men and women, irrespective of their gender. Liberalism socially means that no such feudal privileges will prevail and they should all be abolished. The monarchy should not be there. Freedom for individual and equality of all before the law should be there. So this is what liberal nationalism stood for in different scenarios. Although Napoleon aimed to bring about economic liberal nationalism, that is, he adopted a uniform taxation system, a uniform central administrative system, he introduced uniform system of weights and measures, and he brought about a confederation of 39 states. Also, these states, they were having their own currencies, they were having their own system of weights and measures, like L, that is a unit of measuring cloth. It was different in different regions, and ultimately in 1834 Prussia, it took over the opportunity. Although Napoleon introduced certain economic measures and he tried to bring about the economic liberalism, he brought about economic liberalism and he created 39 confederations, a confederation of 39 states. But still there were some weaknesses or interruptions which are coming due to these 39 confederations. What are these? Each of these 39 confederations, they were having their own system of weights and measures, they were having their own currency, and all this getting transformed, one currency of one confederation into other, was a time consuming and problematic task. So it was a barrier in the expansion of trade. Later on the initiative of Prussia in 1834, a customs union was created, and the name of that customs union was Zollverein. It was formed by Prussia and it was joined by most of the German states. This Zollverein, it abolished the tariff barriers and the number of currencies. Before the formation of Zollverein, there were 30 different currencies. All these currencies were abolished and only 2 currencies were introduced. So the number of currencies was reduced from 30 to 2, and a new network of railways was further stimulated, and it brought about the mobility, easy mobility, and it helped in the expansion of trade. Now, what is conservatism? See, conservatism is a philosophy or a belief in which the people or the conservatives, they believe that the traditional institutions, that is the monarchy, the church, the social hierarchies, the property and family, they should be preserved, they should not be touched, there should not be any change in these institutions. Also, they wanted that the society should not return to the pre-revolutionary days. They also are in favor of new changes, especially the changes which were brought about by Napoleon. They should also be maintained along with the preservance of the old institutions. Also, why they considered it so? Because doing all this will make the state more effective and strong. So in 1815, the representatives of the European powers, that is BRPA, I repeat, BRPA, this we have already discussed in the WebEx class. B, that is Britain, R, Russia, P, Prussia, and A, Austria. It's Austria, not Australia, right? So BRPA, these 4 powers, these 4 European powers, they have collectively defeated Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo, and these 4 powers, the representatives of these 4 powers, they met at Vienna, and this meeting was headed by Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. These representatives, they formed the draft of the Treaty of Vienna that was the Treaty of Vienna of 1815, and whatever changes were brought about in Europe by the Napoleonic War and Napoleonic armies, they were all undone, that is, they were all reversed, and the new orders which were prevailing before the arrival of Napoleon, they were restored. The first one was the Bourbon dynasty was restored to power in France. France lost all the territories which were annexed under Napoleon. Different states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent its further expansion. A kingdom of Netherlands was set up in north, and Genoa was added to Piedmont in the south. Prussia was given new territories in west, while Italy came under the control of Austria. Also, it is to be noted that the Confederation of 39 states which was set up by Napoleon, it was left untouched. And these conservative regimes which were set up, they were actually autocratic, so they imposed censorship and they were not able to tolerate any criticism and dissent. So they started controlling what was said in newspapers, books, plays and songs. And again, they were against the ideas of liberty and freedom. But although the aristocratic regimes were established, the liberal nationalists, they were against these, and they raised this issue, that is the freedom of press, on which the censorship was imposed by the autocratic regime. They raised this issue and they started again their revolution, and this became the main idea of their revolution. After 1815, the revolutionaries, they started making secret societies, as the fear of repression made many revolutionaries to become underground, so they framed their own secret societies, and these secret societies were aimed to oppose the monarchical forms which were established after the Treaty of Vienna, and they were also to fight for liberty and freedom of the people. And not to mention, or the foremost of these revolutionaries was Giuseppe Mazzini. He became a member of the secret society of Carbonari at the age of 24. He attempted a revolution in Liguria, and for this he was condemned and he was sent to exile. Later on, he founded two more underground societies, Young Italy in Marseilles and then Young Europe in Bern. And the members from Poland, France, Italy, and German states, they became the members of these two secret societies. And Mazzini, he believed that God had intended nations to be natural units of mankind. Also, for this reason, he wanted the different nations like Italy to become unified republic within a alliance of nations, and this model was followed by secret societies which were set up in Germany, France, Switzerland and Poland. And that's why Mazzini, he became one of the main destroyer or one of the main opponent of monarchy, and that's why Metternich also described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. That's all we have in this video. Thank you and have a nice